I never thought I would be here, sitting at my kitchen table, staring at my son like he was a puzzle I couldn't solve. Shelton is 22 now, a man in every sense of the word. Tall, strong, handsome, with a sharp mind and a quiet confidence that reminds me of his father. He has always been the type to think before speaking, to measure his words carefully. Even as a child, he never threw tantrums, never screamed for attention. He was thoughtful, serious, as if he carried an old soul within him. But now, as I watch him sitting across from me, eating his dinner in silence, I wonder if I failed him somehow. He has never dated. Not once. No first crush in middle school. No awkward high school romance. No flurry of excitement over a college sweetheart. He has never brought a girl home, never stayed out late whispering on the phone, never blushed at a text message. And that worries me. I clear my throat, setting down my fork. So, how's work? He looks up briefly, swallows and shrugs. Fine. That's it. No elaboration. I try again. Any new friends? Another shrug. Not really. I take a sip of water, trying to keep my voice casual. What about dating? This time he pauses. His dark eyes lift to meet mine, unreadable, careful. Mom, his tone is a warning. I press forward anyway. I'm just saying, Shelton, you're 22. You've never had a girlfriend, never even mentioned anyone. That's not normal. His jaw tightens slightly, but his voice remains even. It's normal for me. I exhale, frustration bubbling in my chest. But why? Is it that you don't want a relationship? Or do you just not feel? He cuts me off. I don't need anyone, Mom. I'm fine. Fine. That's what he always says. I pick at my food, my appetite gone. The truth is, I don't know what worries me more. The idea that he might be lonely and just doesn't know how to say it. Or the thought that maybe he truly doesn't need anyone. That he has spent so many years with just me, that he's built his world so small, so self-contained, that no one else fits inside it. I want him to love. I want him to experience. I don't want him to wake up at 40 alone, realizing that life has passed him by. But maybe I'm afraid too. Maybe it's not just about him needing someone. Maybe it's about me fearing that once he does, I'll be left behind. That night I call Angela. Angela and I have been friends since college. She's the one person who knows me inside and out, who can read between my words even when I try to hide. All right, Tina, what's going on? She asks the second she picks up. Sigh. It's Shelton. There's a knowing pause on the other end of the line before she says, You're worried about the dating thing again. Yes. I mean, aren't you? Julian is the same age, and he's always dating someone new. He's out living life, falling in love, getting his heart broken. Shelton hasn't even tried. Angela hums thoughtfully. But does he seem unhappy? Hesitate. That's the thing. Shelton doesn't seem sad. He's not withdrawn or moody. He isn't bitter or angry. He enjoys his routines, his quiet life. He works, he reads, he watches his shows. He goes to the gym. He eats dinner with me. But is that enough? I don't know, I admit. Angela's voice softens. Tina. Maybe he's just built differently. Not everyone needs romance the way you think they do. I press my fingers to my temple. But why? Why doesn't he want it? Why doesn't he crave that connection? Angela sighs. Look, I'll be honest with you. Maybe he's just not interested in women. Blink. The thought had crossed my mind before, but Shelton never seemed interested in anyone, male or female. He has never spoken about attraction at all. I chew my lip. If that were the case, I'd support him completely. But I don't think that's it. He just doesn't care. Angela is quiet for a moment before she says, Maybe he doesn't see the point of it. Maybe, for him, life is complete as it is. I shake my head. Oh, I refuse to believe that. Nobody wants to be alone forever. Angela's voice is gentle. Are you sure you're not projecting? I stiffen. What? You've been alone for so long, Tina. Since Brian left. It's just been you and Shelton. Maybe it's you who doesn't want to be alone. I swallow hard. Because deep down I know she's right. The next day I decide to try again. Shelton is sitting on the couch, watching something on his laptop. I sit beside him, careful, cautious. He glances at me and raises an eyebrow. Mom, take a breath. I just want to ask one thing. And I need you to really answer me this time. He sighs, closing his laptop. Okay. I steel myself. Do you ever get lonely? His expression doesn't change, but something flickers in his eyes. No. I wait watching him. His fingers tighten slightly around the edge of his laptop. Finally he exhales. I don't see the point of it, Mom. Relationships, dating, love, it all just seems exhausting. People break up, they cheat, they fight, they hurt each other. I don't want that. I don't need it. His words hit me like a slap. That's life, Shelton, I whisper. It's messy, yes, but it's also beautiful. You don't think love is worth the risk? He hesitates, then shakes his head. Not for me. Silence stretches between us. I reach for his hand. He doesn't pull away. I just want you to be happy, I say, my voice thick with emotion. He looks at me then, really looks at me, and I see something in his eyes I can't quite name. I am happy, Mom, he says softly. But are you? The question lingers in the air, pressing against my ribs like a weight I don't know how to carry. I don't answer. Because I don't know the truth myself. Instead I squeeze his hand and he squeezes back. I never wanted to go on the date. Not really. But I told myself that maybe, just maybe, if Shelton saw me putting myself out there, he would realize that life wasn't meant to be lived in solitude. Maybe he would understand that love, however complicated, however messy, was still worth it. So, when Greg, a man I met through Angela, asked me to dinner, I forced a smile and said yes. He was nice enough. A widower, kind-eyed, with a deep voice and an easygoing nature. He seemed safe, harmless. And maybe that was all I needed. A harmless way to set an example for my son. Except I had nothing to wear. My closet was full of practical clothes, old blouses, and jeans I had owned for years. Nothing remotely attractive. Nothing that made me feel like a woman who was about to go on a date for the first time in over 2 decades. So, I did something I hadn't done in years. I asked Shelton for help. Shelton agreed right away. I could tell he was trying to be supportive, but something in his expression was off. We walked into the boutique, the scent of new fabric and perfume filling the air. The place was bright, elegant, with mannequins in sleek dresses displayed like art. I hesitated near a rack of cocktail dresses, running my fingers over the silky fabric. Shelton stood beside me, hands in his pockets, his jaw tight. What do you think? I asked, holding up a deep blue dress against myself. He shrugged. It's fine. His tone was neutral, but the way his eyes darkened told me otherwise. I tried to brush it off. Okay, well, let's pick a few and you can help me decide. We moved through the store, and I gathered an armful of dresses. Shelton didn't say much, only nodding or giving vague hums in response to my choices. I chalked it up to him being uncomfortable. After all, how many grown sons go dress shopping with their mothers? But when I stepped into the fitting room and started trying them on, I noticed it. The way he watched me. At first I thought nothing of it. But then I stepped out in a red dress. Nothing scandalous, just fitted enough to hug my figure, and his entire body tensed. His hands clenched at his sides. His throat bobbed with a thick swallow. Well? I asked, twirling slightly. He blinked, as if shaking himself out of a trance. It looks nice. His voice was hoarse, too low, too careful. I frowned, tilting my head. You don't like it? Shelton hesitated. Then, without meeting my eyes, he muttered, It just doesn't feel like you. I sighed and went back to the fitting room, ignoring the strange heat in my chest. But it didn't stop there. Every time I came out in a new dress, I felt his eyes on me. The way they lingered, the way he looked at me. Not like a son admiring his mother's fashion choices, but like a man seeing a woman. And then I put on the last dress. A black number, sleek and elegant, with an open neckline that showed just a hint of skin. I stepped out, smoothing the fabric over my hips, and when I lifted my gaze to Shelton, my breath caught. He was staring at me like I had knocked the air out of his lungs. His lips parted slightly, his fingers curled into fists, his whole body frozen as though he had forgotten how to move. Wow, he murmured, barely above a whisper. I've never seen a woman so beautiful. The words sent a shiver down my spine. It wasn't what he said, it was how he said it. He wasn't talking about the dress. He wasn't talking about me in some detached, motherly way. Shelton was overwhelmed, at a loss for words. And I understood. The realization hit me like a tidal wave, stealing the breath from my lungs. Shelton, my son, was in love with me. I looked away, trying to steady myself. My heart pounded in my ears as I turned back toward the fitting room, hands trembling as I closed the door behind me. I leaned against it, closing my eyes. What have I done? Somewhere along the way, I had become his whole world. I had let myself be. I had been everything to him. His mother, his best friend, his only constant. And now, here he was, a grown man who had never loved anyone else, because in his eyes, no one could ever compare. When I stepped out, he was waiting. His expression conflicted, tense. "Mom," he said softly. "I need to tell you something." I forced a smile. "Shelton, we should go. Please." His voice was raw, his eyes pleading. And I couldn't deny him. Not when he looked at me like that, like he was carrying something too heavy to bear alone. He nodded. "'Kay. Let's talk." We sat in the car, parked in an empty lot, the city lights flickering in the distance. Shelton stared out the windshield, gripping the steering wheel like it was the only thing keeping him grounded. Then finally he spoke. "I tried, Mom," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "When I was 17, I went on 2 dates. With girls from school. I stayed silent, my heart hammering. They were fine, I guess. But they were silly, shallow. I couldn't connect with them." He turned to me then, his dark eyes heavy with something unspoken. I thought maybe I was just different. That maybe I didn't need love like other people did. I swallowed hard, gripping my dress. "Shelton. But then I started to see you differently," he continued, his voice strained. "Not in a way I wanted to, not in a way I meant to. Just happened. One day, I realized no woman would ever be as kind as you, as strong, as smart. No one else could make me feel safe, or make me laugh the way you do." My breath caught in my throat. "And I hated myself for it," he admitted, voice breaking. "I fought it, ignored it, told myself it was wrong. But no matter how much I tried, I couldn't stop feeling this way." Silence. Heavy, suffocating. I didn't know what to say. Shelton's hands shook slightly as he exhaled. "I know this isn't normal. I know I shouldn't love you like this. But I don't know how to stop." I stared at him, my heart aching. Not in disgust, not in anger, just sorrow. I reached for his hand, squeezing it gently. "Shelton," I whispered. "I'm so sorry. Because I knew this was my fault. I had been his whole world. And in doing so, I had left no room for anyone else. I had built this life for us, not realizing that I had built it too well. So well that he never wanted to leave. And now here we were. Crap. The date should have been a distraction. I told myself it was the right thing to do, that setting an example for Shelton was my duty as a mother. If I showed him that love was worth pursuing, maybe he'd open his heart too. But as I sat across from Greg at the dimly lit restaurant, swirling my wine in its glass, all I could think about was Shelton. What if he was right? What if no one could compare? Greg was kind, attentive. He asked about my job, my life, my past. He laughed at my jokes and complimented my smile. And yet, every time he reached across the table, every time his fingers brushed mine, I felt nothing. Tried. God knows I tried. But as I stared at Greg, all I could hear was Shelton's voice from earlier that day. "No woman will ever be as kind as you, as strong, as smart. No one else could make me feel safe, or make me laugh the way you do." I had created him in my own image. Shaped his thoughts, his values, his entire being. Of course, no one could measure up to the ideals I had instilled in him. And now, for the first time, I questioned everything. Had I spent so much time raising Shelton to be the kind of man I admired that I had made it impossible for him to love anyone else? Or, more terrifyingly, had I made it impossible for me to love anyone else? I barely heard Greg as he talked about his late wife. I nodded, forced a polite smile, but my mind was already home. Already with Shelton. I ended the date early, giving a weak excuse about a headache. Greg didn't protest. He only smiled kindly, offered to walk me to my car, and said, "I'd love to see you again, Tina." He nodded. But deep down, I knew I wouldn't call him. When I got home, the house was dark. I sighed, slipping off my heels and setting my purse on the counter. The air inside felt heavy, almost suffocating. I found Shelton in the living room. He was sitting on the couch, but there was nothing relaxed about his posture. His arms were folded, his jaw tight, his eyes stormy. "Shelton." He looked up at me then, his gaze cutting through the dim light like a blade. "How was it?" I hesitated. "It was fine." "Did you kiss him?" His voice was low, dangerous. I stared at him. What? His hands curled into fists on his knees. Did he touch you? Shelton, stop. I stepped forward, trying to understand the sudden intensity in his voice. He let out a bitter laugh, shaking his head. You really think you can just go on a date like nothing has changed? Like I didn't tell you how I feel? I swallowed hard. We are not having this conversation. His eyes darkened. Why not? You know the truth now. You know how I feel. And yet you still went out with him. Because that's what I'm supposed to do. I snapped, the words spilling out before I could stop them. I'm supposed to move on. I'm supposed to show you that love exists beyond these four walls. That's my job, Shelton. I am your mother. Then why did you wear that dress? His voice was sharp, but beneath it I heard something else, something raw. Froze. You knew, didn't you? He continued, standing up now, towering over me. You knew I didn't want you to go. You felt it, and yet you still asked me to help you pick a dress. Why, Mom? Why did you do that to me? My breath caught in my throat. 'Cause he was right. Somewhere, deep in the part of me I didn't want to acknowledge, I had wanted him to see me. I had wanted his reaction. I had wanted to prove to myself that it was all in my head, that the way he looked at me, the way he lingered, was just motherly admiration. But it wasn't. And I had known it all along. Shelton, this has to stop, I whispered. But he didn't move away. If anything, he stepped closer. His breath was heavy, his chest rising and falling unevenly. His hands trembled slightly, like he was fighting something inside himself. I reached out instinctively, placing a hand on his shoulder. You need to calm down. The moment I touched him, he let out a shaky breath, like I had taken all the fight out of him in a single stroke. I ran my hand through his hair, over his back, the way I had done since he was a little boy. But it felt different now. The air between us was charged, thick with something unspoken. And then, suddenly, Shelton turned to me. His hands gripped my arms, his face inches from mine. His eyes burned with something desperate, something unstoppable. Before I could react, his lips crashed against mine. A soft gasp left my throat, but I didn't pull away. I should have. But I didn't. I let it happen. His touch was hesitant at first, as if waiting for me to push him away, to tell him he had made a terrible mistake. But I didn't. My hands clutched his shirt, my body leaning into him instead of away. When he pulled back, his expression was wild with disbelief. Mom! I stepped away, my breathing uneven. This can't happen. He didn't argue. He didn't beg. He just looked at me, and in his eyes I saw the truth. This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't confusion. This was love, the only love he had ever known. And I had let it happen. We didn't talk about it. The next morning we pretended nothing had changed. But it had changed. 'Cause it happened again. And again. Soft touches. Lingering gazes. The quiet moments in the kitchen, when his fingers would brush mine for a second too long. The nights on the couch, when his arm would rest around my shoulders, and I wouldn't move away. And the kisses. They were never planned. They never came with words. They were stolen in passing, pressed against the silence we refused to break. Each time I told myself it would be the last. Each time I told myself I was losing control. But the truth was, I had already lost it. I lay awake at night, staring at the ceiling, asking myself how I had let it come to this. But deep down I already knew. Because I had built this life. Because no one else could ever measure up. Because in the end, Shelton was right. No one else could love me the way he did. And no one else ever would.